Dear Aunt Flo is a podcast about bad periods, and I'm your host, Elisa Michelle. Every month, we'll dive deep into my own vaginal monologues as I discuss my journey with endometriosis and share stories that we wish someone would have warned us about sooner. I am your new period BFF, so let's get comfortable speaking about our cycles. Hello. Welcome back to another episode of Dear Aunt Flo. I am your beloved host, Elisa Michelle, and today we are diving into advocacy. But first, you know what we got to do, a letter to Dear Aunt Flo. So, Dear Aunt Flo, I cried like a baby last month because a stupid doctor told me that there was no cure for you. I mean, I get it. No one has found one yet. But I don't like to be told no. And apparently you don't either. You tamed yourself a bit last month, and I'm grateful for that. But now the real challenge begins, if you know what I mean. So let's keep this convo open and aligned, okay? Sincerely fed up, Elisa Michelle. So I am in a new space today. I feel like a legit podcaster right now. I'm not in my living room. I am in an actual podcast studio. I have the headphones, I have the microphones, like I have the Rodecaster Pro. Like we're doing it. Okay, we're doing it all today. But we are talking about advocacy. If you've followed along on my journey so far, you have heard me say this word time and time again, and I will continue to shout it from the mountaintops because it's so important. What is advocacy? Advocacy is the public support or recommendation of a particular cause or policy. And that's the dictionary, like online definition. Okay, so I'm not making this up. Do people still use dictionaries anymore? I hope so. But anyway, when it comes to endometriosis or women's health in general, we need all the advocacy we can get, whether it's from a spouse or a friend or a family member or from yourself, okay? You know your body the best. In my case, it's mostly me, and that's because I never want to burden anyone else with my problems unless I absolutely have to. I spent most of my life never speaking up for myself out of fear of either repercussions or the attention. We all know how I feel about attention, and I guess another therapy moment, but I wonder if it all kind of stems from, I kind of grew up in that generation of being seen and not heard, or like speak only when you're spoken to. So I rarely had the chance to formulate my own opinions or like say what I'm actually thinking. So a lot of that now in my big age, I either go full force because, I go hard for myself if I need to, like if someone's trying to hold me back or disenfranchise me in any way, like I'm going to fight for what I believe. Or I'm going to hold myself back because I'm like, maybe I shouldn't speak up at this time. Maybe this thing is happening for a reason and I need to just kind of, go with the flow. And a lot of that I think also stems from my Christianity, right? Like turn the other cheek or give grace. So yeah, therapy. Anyway, I started really getting after it when doctors weren't believing what I knew to be true about my own body, right? So I'm living this, fully experiencing this thing, and to have a doctor just like dismiss you is insane. But I didn't know what gaslighting was at the time. I found out about it even before medically being gaslit. I found out about it in my old job. Our boss was like top tier narcissist, and I didn't even know what gaslighting was. I think it just seems like a more prevalent term nowadays. I don't know if it's always been a term and we just never knew it, or we never like knew what word to give the situation at hand. Because I mean, narcissists have been around since the dawn of time. So gaslighting, I assume, has also been around since the dawn of time. But maybe now that we have a word for it, a term for it, it's just more prevalent and well used. But yeah, I was being gaslit at like every turn. When I was bleeding for months on end, when my pain was so excruciating that ibuprofen could no longer cut it, when my stomach felt like it was being pushed out of its place. So much has happened to my body over the past 5 years at this point. And had I not pushed for an ultrasound or an MRI or another opinion, like I've gone through doctors, I'm quick to switch up on a doctor because you're not hearing me or you're not really giving me the time and care and attention that I know that I deserve and that I need, because my body is literally yelling at me. And I'm sitting here trying to get help, and you're just looking at me like I'm crazy. So we put a lot of weight and trust in the doctors that we seek out for care, in which we should, because that's what they were medically trained to do, to care for us. But we forget that our realities and our truth matter the most. So never forget that your gut instinct, the thing inside of you that is gnawing at you, that is telling you what's happening, okay? It's ready to fight, yell, and scream at the top of her lungs until the right someone hears her. So go with that gut instinct all times. And then sometimes we also forget that we have partners, we have parents, we have friends that are in our corner that are more than ready and willing to show up and pull up when necessary. I tell my husband pretty much everything that happens to my body. So if the time comes for him to speak up for me, he knows what's going on. I also have a best friend that unfortunately experiences endo worse than I do and has endured it for much longer than myself. But we swap war stories all of the time. And I think if it came down for me or her to advocate for the other, like I'm sure we could step up to the plate. And then where on earth would I be without my God-fearing prayer warrior of a mother? Like I just love her so much. I truly, truly do. And even though she's like 3,000 miles away from me, she knows how to get down on her knees and pray. And things happen, okay? Power of prayer is a beautiful thing. And I am so grateful for her for having such a strong faith and foundation when I lose my shit. So yeah, it also helps too that like she's been through this before. I don't know if she was medically gaslit or if she had doctors that didn't care for her in the same way, but she's experienced the pain that I'm going through. She's experienced loss. She's experienced just dealing with our monthly cycle and not knowing what to do about it. And so she sympathizes with me. She can empathize with me. And I think that it hurts her more probably to see me go through what she went through than it hurts me to actually go through it. But yeah, so with all that, there are a lot of different ways that you can advocate. One, know your body and your symptoms. Like keep track of what's happening, how often it's happening, when, where, why, how. Like keep a record of it. And that way, when you go to these appointments and these doctors are asking you questions, you have an answer for them like right off the bat. Okay, you can tell them when and where and why and how all of these different things are happening to you. And that really makes a difference because they expect us to kind of just come in and not fully understand or be able to articulate. Like, I lose my words a lot, but when I'm able to just kind of write down or have something tangible that I can be like, hey, this, just run down the list, right? This is what's happening and I need help. Okay. Number 2, research on your own. So understand what's happening beyond just knowing what your body is feeling. Do some research, okay? Google is your friend too, okay? WebMD might not be your friend, but there are resources out there that are available. There are a lot of medical journals and research papers and things that are online and available for you to read up on so that you can get a better understanding of what's happening. Number 3, speak up for yourself and for others. This is a great way to advocate because if you're experiencing it, chances are someone else is experiencing it too. This podcast is a form of advocacy for me. I'm able to share my story because I know that there is a community of other women out there who are experiencing some of the similar or at least relatable things that are happening to me. And another reason or another way to advocate is to fight the system, okay? Get in from the inside. And I'm not saying like go out and go to medical school, get a medical degree, and then be like, bam, now what? Because that's a lot of work, and let's not get that deep into it. But get to know your local constituents. What laws are in place that can help further and better research and programming centered around your cause. I feel that it would be nice if we had local council women and councilmen and mayors and grant writers and lawmakers who cared about women. But we live in America, and we all know what's happening. I mean, we see what's happening all of the time, every day. They come after us for no reason. And it's sad when you get things taken away, like abortion rights, like the choice, the option to choose. No matter what situation put you in this situation, the right to choose should be your right. And we are forced with accepting laws from people who, 1, don't have a uterus, and 2, say that they're pro-life, but don't give a rat's ass about life. They don't care about anyone's life except for their own. And I'm going to step off of my soapbox because I can go much deeper than that with this situation. But it's really sad that we don't have better advocacy for women out there. Okay, last but not least, join a community of like-minded individuals, okay? Like a nonprofit or an agency for social change. I'm going to list a few resources in the show notes that I've followed over the past few years that have given me a lot of insight into different aspects of the women's body and how to best show up for myself. If I'm thinking right off the top of my head, we have Black Mamas Matter, Birth Workers of Color, for the Village Doula, the Black OBGYN Project. So there are resources out there. And of course, I'm always going to go hard for my people. So a lot of my resources are going to be for women of color because we need it. Okay. We need it. Next week, actually, April 11th through 17th, which is actually probably the week that this will be dropped. This podcast episode will be dropped. So April 11th through 17th is Black Maternal Health Week. And Black and brown women are 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related causes than white women. And if you've been following the myriad of stories, but most recently about our popular and beloved Jessica Petway, and then the former NFL cheerleader Crystal Anderson, just their passings were unnecessary. Like, they did not have to happen. And I know at some point we all pass away, but to leave this earth for something that could have been avoided with just the simple task of listening. Like, oh my goodness, if you just listened to Jessica when she came to you about the enormous size blood clotting, for her to be misdiagnosed, like, it tore me up inside. She was told that she had fibroids, which I'm very sure she did, but she also had cervical cancer. And how do you mistake that as a medical professional? How do you mistake cervical cancer for fibroids? It's beyond me. But her death could have been avoided had someone listened to her and took her seriously about the pain that she was in, about her circumstances. And then Crystal Anderson passing away from sepsis, I can never say that word, shortly after the stillbirth of her daughter. I just think of when COVID was around and like running rampant, and women weren't allowed to have their partners or family members or anyone else in the room with them when they went to doctor's appointments, when they had their pregnancy checkups, when they were giving birth. Like, I can't imagine having to be alone in that type of situation with my own voice, trying so hard to fight for myself, and doctors just dismissing it off as nothing. Another day for them. It's just another day in the life for a doctor to do whatever that they do. It's really disheartening. I also think about just how we have doulas and midwives now. I mean, we've had them for ages. They've been around forever, but we have access to women who are there to literally fight for us and advocate for us and help us understand what we need, and then have someone else to relay what we're feeling and what we're experiencing. I think it's very important, and I hope that whenever I start this journey to motherhood, that I have a doula or a midwife in my corner, because I think it's so important, especially with the experiences that I've had so far. I would really love to have that extra added advocacy beside me. So yeah, you never know what differences you can make when you show up for people, when you show up for yourself. So just keep that in mind. And then it's really sad what's happening with our Black and brown women and how much we have to fight for ourselves. Like, what preventions are being put in place to protect us from this? You know, like, we have the stats and we have the research and we have the just reality of things that are happening, and they've been happening, and yet what's being put in place to prevent it? What's being put in place to stop these stats from growing? Nothing. It baffles me. It baffles me. Wellness visits aren't even the same anymore. You go in for a physical or for your pap smear. Pap smears are on your insurance every 3 years. Why are they not yearly anymore? What happened to annual pap smears? Does my vagina just stop needing a checkup for 2 years out of the time? That's just not, it doesn't make any sense to me. I watched a video the other day, actually. A lady was talking about how her insurance says every 3 years for pap smear. She went in anyway to get one during her wellness visit. And they told her, no, every 3 years. And she said, no, I'm going to check with my insurance. And she did. She called them, asked all the questions she needed to ask. And they said that, yes, it's written that they don't do it or don't need it every 3 years. But if you want one during your wellness visit, you can request it and they don't charge you for it. And this is she has Kaiser. So I don't know what the other insurances are like, but you can definitely double check. If you feel that during your wellness visit, you also need a pap smear, you have the right to ask for one. And if your insurance covers it, great. And if it doesn't and you have the money to pay for it, also great. But make sure that you know your rights. Make sure that you are getting the full checkup experience. It's really sad. And I pray for the day that we'll be taken seriously and loved enough to help us in our time of need. Okay, let's wrap up. I challenge you to speak up for yourself, whether it has to do with your period or your job or your next door neighbor. Listen to that loud voice in your gut, letting you know that it's not right, but it's going to be okay. And once you fight for what you need, you'll get what you need. And that leads us to today's affirmation. It's not right, but it's okay. I'm going to make it anyway. So say it with me. It's not right, but it's okay. And I'm going to make it anyway. Bonus points if you know the lyrics that song goes to and the artist who sings it. I love you. I see you. I hear you. Peace.